Awesome. So, welcome everyone. I'm Chanel, attorney by trade and wellness advocate by passion. And you are entering the We Heal podcast. Today, I'm being joined by Aries, Katema, Jay Thomas, and JR. And we're going to talk today about some mental health issues for Black men. The reason why I wanted to have this podcast moment was to give Black men an opportunity to have a safe space to talk about this topic that we know is taboo, even though it's 2023. And we already know that there is this stigma that Black men don't heal. Black men aren't aware of their triggers. Black men don't know how to handle the societal pressures. So, and one quote that when I was doing my research, talks about there would be more innovative entrepreneurs, scientists, doctors, lawyers, whatever trade, if we gave Black men more space to heal and grow. So, I'm going to set the stage. Everybody close their eyes.
Okay.
So, you're driving in your car. It's been a long day at work. You're feeling overwhelmed. And you pull over to the side of the road. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Y'all can open your eyes now.
You gotta give some more guidance.
Yeah.
Like, this is a long trip.
Yeah, I know.
Well, come back.
way in the
Come back.
AAA?
You can come back now. You can come back now. You can come back now.
Yeah.
Right, we on the highway or no? It's important to know.
Yeah.
So, what came to someone's mind? Katema?
What's like? I'm feeling overwhelmed. You said?
Yes.
The first thing that came to mind was music, which is weird. Like, what type of music I'm going to listen to, or what kind of music I'm going to put on to like take my mind off of something. So that was the first thing that came.
Is music your escape?
I mean, I have a lot of different escapes, but in the car, when I'm playing certain songs or whatever, I could feel like, I guess, my safest when I'm there. And then I could also just not think about other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mine was breathe.
Mm.
It was breathe. I tend to, if I ever get that upset and I gotta pull over, I'm not breathing. 9 times out of 10, I'm frustrated and I'm just like, all right, let me ground myself. Let me just chill real quick because something not right. I'm gonna hit that gas pedal and be speeding. I'm gonna cut somebody off. I'm gonna end up following somebody because road rage is the thing. I'm working on it.
Well, I don't drive, but it's okay.
Listen, so it's like, okay, breathe, ground yourself, and just before you go any further, figure out where you're at.
Right. Okay. Jay Thomas.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that came to mind was actually breathing was part of it, but it was the word that came to my mind was disorganization. And it's because I think that's where I get overwhelmed, is that there are 7 issues going on and I haven't quite organized them in order of priority. And I think trying to compartmentalize like what actually is a problem and what is a future problem. Like, what do I need to handle this now? Like, is this worth worrying about at the moment? So I think that's what I thought about.
Yeah. I mean, very similar. My biggest thing is just what I can and cannot control. So, really kind of like sitting down and figuring out, all right, what is in my control, and then just go find a way to go get it done. And if it's not in my control, then I got to figure out what steps I need to take to get up to that point where I have to rely on something or someone else to kind of come in and help solve that problem. But breathing is definitely, I mean, you have to be able to meditate a little bit and figure out where you need to go next. And, it's just more so just getting things done. Being stagnant or in limbo drives me crazy. So it would basically.
I agree. I think, like if you don't breathe and you don't ground yourself, you can end up making an irrational decision.
100%.
And so it's like if you don't take control of your emotions in that moment, your emotions will take control of you. And the next thing you know, you're in a situation that you never would have been in if you just took the time to figure out, okay, what's happening.
Right.
I actually have a question then. So, like, how do you know when you're overwhelmed? Because, like, when she first asked the question, it's like, it's overwhelmed is like another Tuesday. So,
so yeah, no,
how do you
for
know
real,
when you're overwhelmed?
especially when you got a lot going on. It's hard to. So one thing that I had to do was I had to identify my signs. So I had to spend time getting to know myself, and it's like, okay, what are my triggers? So one of my exes, she had chronic migraines, and so she would get migraines all the time. She went to the doctor, and they said, make a note of what happened and what you were doing before that happened. And so I took that for myself, and I said, okay, I know I'm getting overwhelmed. What happened? What's the sign that I was getting overwhelmed? So my breathing got shorter. I noticed I got fog brain. I was saying I couldn't figure out what was going on. I got a little shaky and agitated. I noticed my temper is starting to go off. So that's how I know that I'm overwhelmed.
Gotcha.
Identifying the signs like, okay, something ain't right.
Okay.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up because we're going to dive more into whether you all are self-aware of what your triggers are. With Katema, you talk about your diagnosis. And I'm also someone, who has a diagnosis with anxiety and depression. And balancing that and the journey with that, So when you tell people that you have this diagnosis, like, how do you want them to support you? And I promise we're going to get to you too.
I mean,
that was good.
Again, it was like, it goes back to what I said originally, check your ignorance. So it's just, growing up, ADHD was one of the things. So they said ADHD, PTSD, anxiety, and depression. So those are the things that I'm just functioning with. And all of those things are obvious. I've always had those things to me. But it was validating to hear a, trained professional say it, whatever, right? But growing up with ADHD, kids, when I was a kid, teachers tried to put me in special ed because I used to get into trouble all the time. I used to fight. I used to do this, that. Or my mom thinks I'm being lazy. Like, nah, I'm fighting for my life right now. So it's like, or even when growing up with partners, like there's times in which I'm just going to forget stuff. I'm not going to see it. When I say I have ADHD, I'm not. So you know what, to give it a more concise answer, understand that when I'm telling you I have ADHD, anxiety, depression, and the PTSD, it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, this is some of the things I have. Please just be patient and have grace with me. I'm not using it as a crutch. It's just that certain things are not going to come natural to me. Or even like with, self-awareness. Like I've always been relatively self-aware, but it's like in the environments that I grew up in, survival was more
Correct.
at the top of the thing.
Correct.
So like, again, I'd speak like a quote unquote white kid, but I was in the projects on the weekend and I was in Bed-Stuy in the 90s. And I was like all this. So it was just a constant survival. That's what it was. And when you're constantly trying to survive, you're not even thinking about, oh, how does this make me feel? Or how stuff like, because it's not a thing. So when I'm telling people stuff, it's just more of, I'm not making an excuse. And this is not some shit I made up. This is something that I deal with, and it's for me, and it doesn't make me any less of a person or less of a man or nothing. It's just, if anything, I'm happy that I know these things and I took the time to learn it. So just be patient and check your ignorance.
Can I give you a challenge? Because I'm listening to everything you said, and I know we talked about journaling earlier, and you said you could only do it for like 3 seconds and then you time out. I probably journal once every 3 or 4 months. And it's not a long journal, 1 page tops, right? But I think just getting in the habit of testing it, right? Like just
I do poetry.
Oh, there
so
you
that
go.
helps.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
because you'd be surprised at how many things are stuck in your mind. At least for me, I was surprised at how many things were stuck in the back of my mind. And I would always start off by writing 3 things I'm grateful for, and it could be rent, it could be a bottle of water that we didn't get, it could be a lot of other things.
Fire.
But I think like
that was smooth. How you get that?
That was real smooth.
Yeah, that was smooth.
I got you.
Good.
I got you.
Good.
Silencer on that gun.
Right.
But I think just that process, like sometimes I would get writer's block, Like I would write 3 things I'm grateful for, and by the time I get to the third, I'm like, wait, what else am I grateful for? And it could be something simple. It could be like, you're alive, right? But then when you start writing like, all right, what is the reason I'm even here in the first place? And I would freeze up like, I got nothing. And then I blink, and next thing you know, I got a page and a half worth of stuff. And I'm like, where'd this come from? Right? It would just be my, like, look, I'm not licensed to give any recommendations in terms of what you went through. I think all of us has had traumatic experiences and how we deal with that. Either we let it foster or we heal from it. And we're going to need professionals to help us heal from that. Right? And we may never truly ever fully heal, but having an outlet where it's just for you. You mentioned your apartment being a place of solace now.
Yeah.
I'm curious if a book in that apartment can even help you take it to the next level.
Like a journaling book?
Whatever works for you. Could be an app, could be anything, but you like poetry. Poetry's a lot of the hidden emotions that don't get the chance to make it out. I'm just curious. It was just
no, I get you. I mean, because I even talk about like moving to LA is also, it's a different experience too. Because it's like growing up in New York, I didn't know I had anxiety until I went to LA. Because New York is such a fast pace and this and that and blah, blah. So when you go to LA, you learn to slow down. And I was like, oh shit, now everyone moves like this? Right. Everyone thinks like this?
That's so true.
Oh, okay. Or like in New York, like you very much, our human interaction is at a higher level. Right. Because like we take the bus, we take the train, stuff like, so I'm very used to being highly aware of my surroundings. So like, I remember I was talking with my boy and we was explaining like what it's like growing up in New York to his girlfriend who's from LA. And I was like, yeah, I was at a Caribbean spot and like 4 dudes walked in. And Brandon said, he said, I don't even need you to finish. He said, you figured out, okay, I could pick that chair, hit him in the back of the head, I could hit him in the back of the shins, blah, blah, blah. Like, because that's the thought process.
You know an exit sign the moment you walk in.
But because that's your environment, and in no way, shape, or form, I'm like a thug or nothing like that. It's just you grow up in whatever.
Right.
But you don't understand how not normal it is until you go into different environments. And people are not even thinking about, oh, I can hit him in the back of the shins, or I could hit him, like, I can beat him, I could do stuff like, it's not an insecurity thing. It's just literally, you got to make sure you can protect yourself. So like even being in LA, and not having that to that extent, but then also all of my friends in LA are in the arts. Like they're all actors, producers, directors, and seeing where we started when I first moved out there versus where we are now, there's some solace in that too.
Right.
So like there's like some, because we're all chasing purpose.
Right. You grew up in the trenches together.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. But
in that field.
But we all could just relate on like, oh, I wish I was a 9-to-5 guy. Like I'm just not. I wish I could do this and that. I'm just not.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. New York does turn you into Jason Bourne.